Shalom, family. Peace and love. I know somebody gonna jump in here eventually. It's just my test run. I'm trying to see do they save these? Peace, fam. Hey, you know if they save these lives? That's really what I'm trying to see. I don't know. Any questions? Islam, fam. What's this? Bishop Mike Marlin. Peace. Islam, family. Y'all come on in. Does anybody know if they save these lives? Like, when I get off of here, is it gonna be saved? What's up? You can save them. All right, yeah. Islam. All right, that's what's up. Peace. Come on in, fam. Any questions? Ain't really too many people in here yet. Gotta save it. Oh, I'm gonna have to save it myself, basically. All right. I think you have to do it manually. All right. Appreciate that. Yeah. Islam, family. Well, look. I ain't got no topics. If ain't nobody got no questions, I don't know. There's a lot of stuff going on. Been hearing a lot of crazy stuff lately. So what I was thinking, basically, there's more than one way to skin a cat. And that's what people know me for the most when it comes to remedy. Out here, I operate public, private, and help people operate public, private, or a combination of both. So the thing is, you can find remedy on every level, from city, municipal level, state, federal, international, whatever. You have to be really just looking for it. Doing your due diligence. When you're looking for remedy, one thing that people don't tell you is a lot of times Moors are always like, move your stuff up to federal court, and that's fine. But a lot of times, if you haven't exhausted your remedies on a lower level, they'll kick it back. Say, hey, you got to exhaust all your remedies on a lower level. So depending on what it is, you might not need to break out the big guns, and a lot of people be on that. So they're trying to pull like the judges and the DA's oath of offices and all of that stuff, do UCCs on the case. And that is good stuff to do, but that's some of the stuff that I would do later on. That's more of when you pressing on them because they pressing on you. They don't want to just give it up and drop a case. That's after you already been fighting, already done rebuttals and things of that sort. Islam, we got more people coming in. Peace and love, y'all. Any questions? Want to move forward? Does paperwork need to go to SOS, Secretary of State? All right. When it comes to your paperwork and where you send it to, you can send it to the Secretary of State, but it's not necessary per se. So, let me give you an example. If you send, your nationality documents to the Secretary of State, all they're going to do is sign off for it, receive it, and they might just throw it away and never look at it ever again. Just to be totally honest, like, no one knows what they're doing with these documents. They're not filing them in anywhere. So you're not really correcting your status by sending anybody your documents per se. That's just putting them on notice. It's flooding their office, letting them know that Moors are waking up and they need to stop fucking around, basically. Now, if, let's say, you had your nationality affidavit and you get it authenticated, that would go through the Secretary of State. Then they're signing off on it and it becomes a fact of law. Anything that's authenticated pretty much becomes a fact of law and is usable for evidence in court. And that's Rule 44 of Federal Procedure. They put that on a certificate you get when you do your authentication. And it pretty much applies on federal level, but also on lower levels as well. So they just will call it something slightly different. Peace and love. Got more people coming in here. Any more questions? Let me see. Child support, does it need to go federal or just on county level? It depends on how hard they pressing with child support. So child support it's not really county level, it's state in general. So, or okay, dealing with it in Texas. So where you're at, it might be a little different, but I've never seen county level dealing with child support. That's usually dealing with the state. So in general, you can settle it with the state when it comes to child support. There are a few ways to go about child support. Um, you can fight the case head on, like do a rebuttal and, like I don't consent and all of that there. Or you could take the approach of just discharge, pay that shit. Because basically with child support, in general, what they're saying is somebody owes a debt that they're considering a parent. So all parents in a child support case or the defendant, the state is the plaintiff. So you got to realize you're fighting the state and the other one is fighting the state as well. So the easiest way to deal with child support from what I've seen is to get an understanding with both parents, with the mother or whoever it is, and to discharge the obligation to the state. Once you discharge that obligation, there's no longer a need for a lot of the stuff that they fucking around with people when it comes to child support. They can't lock you up. There's no more garnishment of wages and things of that stuff. The stuff that people have an issue with having child support. See, I'm on child support, but I've discharged so much of mine that they don't mess with me. So I could go after the full case, or I could go back and discharge the entire thing, which is what I'm probably going to do when I get a chance. It's just, like I say, they really ain't been messing with me because I got them off my back. That I discharged a big chunk of it, which was the majority of it at the time. It's built up a few more thousand since then, but not really an issue too much. How do I stop government from child support? Discharge. You stop it by discharge because you're paying the obligation. Child support, the obligation or the debt comes in general when usually the mother or whoever has custody of the child, they're getting insurance, they're getting other services like the food stamps, the WIC, and things of that sort. When you get those type of things, that's what's accruing a debt. So when you clear that debt, that they stop garnishing the wages because basically it's paid off. Basically, the back due amount is paid. Got any ways to get off probation? Ooh, not exactly. The thing is, probation is a horrible contract. So, all right, when dealing with it, there's a debt to be owed. So you can discharge that. But the thing when it comes to probation and parole is they have a statutory period that they want you to wait. So even if you can take care of the obligation, they're still going to want you to stay in that status till that time runs out, and basically don't get in any more trouble. If you have someone that's nice and gonna work with you. Now, technically you could go back and fight the whole case all the way over again to get you off probation, but you would have to fight and re-challenge everything. Full name status correction needed in Georgia. It's long, brother. Hit me up in the email or in the DMs, and I can send you an affidavit you can file in Georgia. And I'm not sure what they call it in the county out there. Out here, they call it exemplification. They may call it authentication where you're at. But you want to get that copy of your affidavit once you filed it. And you want to file it in the property records. So out here, they call it miscellaneous personal records, but it's a part of the property records. It's not exactly the same, but it's the same department, basically. And they always, when dealing with property records, from what I've seen, they have a charge for whatever the document is to file. So our nationality affidavit is 1 page just to make it simple and to bring that cost down, because I've seen people that have paid $200 and $300 to basically get their nationality on the record, and that's not necessary when you can get it done, one swoop, So like out here, they charge like 18 notes for the first page and 5 or 6 for every one after that. So you You know, you could be paying, like, if it's the 7-page nationality document, I want to say that'd be like 50 to 100 notes or something compared to 18 notes just to get it on the record. And then from there, status correction is custom. So once you get your name and status on the record, it depends on what you're doing next, as far as status correction, public or private. You know, whether you're trying to work as a national, right to travel, you have your own business. You know, every little thing has its own way of going about it. So you have to get with me more individually on that one there, and I can help you out, because that's how I teach status correction. I don't have a 1-step, 2-step, 3-step for everybody, because it doesn't work for everybody. So like how I just said, you know, do the affidavit of name change. That's really the private way, but it translates into the public. So you can go change your state IDs and social securities and other documents like that if you so choose to. But if you need to go the full public route, that would be the court order name change. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, but I only recommend that for people that are in a position where their job or their commerce, they have to get that. Like if you're working in a government position, politicians, lawyers, things of that sort, where they really wouldn't respect it if you didn't do the full court order name change. That comes with the background check and all of that there, and stuff that takes more time. Discharge is that 1099A? Not exactly. Okay. What you have to realize with the 1099s is those are IRS forms. So that's how you assess the taxes in a situation. The 1099A in particular is dealing with abandoned property and it's one more. But it's not itself basically the discharge, because think of it like this. You discharge with a commercial instrument. So commercial instruments are bonds, bill of exchange, money orders, checks, things of that sort. So you would put that instrument with your 1099A. So let's say you're trying to do abandonment and acquisition is the other one. Acquisition. So let's say you're trying to discharge a property through acquisition, because it has a debt on there, it's not totally abandoned. So you would create your 1099A to go along with your private instrument that you're writing up. Like you would draw those up together for that discharge. So 1098 has to file. Yeah, I mean you gotta. That's how they get it. That's how they know about the 1099A. Once you do it, once you write it up with your instrument, you gotta send it in and all of that. Should you stop and lock your social security number through the SSA? All right, in my opinion, when it comes to social security, I say leave that old business the way the prophet says. So I wouldn't change the social security, because that's the name of your estate and you're going to be discharging through that name. So if you want to do like I did, it keeps a separation when you change your name, but don't change the social security, the name on the social security number and account. So that account is, you're going to be using it for discharge anyway. So my strategy, and other brothers that I know that operate in the private, that's the way we go about it. We'll change our name like on a state ID or something like that there, so we have it slightly in the public, but don't go much further in the public. So that way, when you're dealing with that social, you can still honestly say, yeah, that's not me. That's not my name, because you haven't changed it or updated or whatever. But I do suggest that you do a DBA for the straw man. So that way you own the name lawfully. So in situations where people be like, I own his name and blah, 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 like that's the paperwork that you present in court. Like, yes, I own that name. It's my company. What business do you have with my company? As opposed to you trying to argue that it's not you, which a lot of people try and do. And it's a mute argument in court unless you have the birth certificate there with you in hand to say, here, this is who you're calling out. Islam. We got a lot more people coming in, I see. Kino, Islam, brother, what's going on? You need to call me. I ain't heard from you this week. Any more questions in the room? Islam, got Anika in here. What's going down, sis? Royal Hands. I'm not sure who that is, but peace. Welcome. Oh yeah, people piling in. Any more questions to the floor? You know, I'm answering anything live. Look, I got questions. How do I save this video? Who knows how to save this live? Put that in the chat if y'all know how to do that, because I want to save this. I'm gonna start doing more lives, but this was my test run. You know, I just start going in, you know, answering questions in the chat, but I have no clue of what I'm doing yet. I'm still learning this technology, but I'm gonna be doing more lives. I'll probably be doing lives on YouTube pretty soon, and TikTok as well. So y'all can come check me out on there. So a person, what can I use it for? Everything. I use my nationality card for everything, brother. You know, just to be honest. Like, I have a state ID, but I generally don't use it, don't carry it. I'm totally private. I travel with my nationality card. I don't operate in commerce on the road. Like, I don't do Uber or truck driving or nothing like that. So I don't need a driver's license per se. So anytime I'm identifying myself, I'm whipping out the nationality card. I use it for everything. I've used it for jobs, but I haven't, you know, worked for the system in about 5 years. You know, but you know, there's other documentations to go along with that. But you know, anything, you know, that you may need to use it for, you could pretty much use it for in general. But you may have to defend it. I'll say that. Not everyone 100% of times is going to accept the nationality card, but it is created to the standards that are for public. So, you know, that card should technically be accepted anywhere. Somebody saying copyright name. Yes. That's definitely a good thing to do. I did a common law copyright through affidavit, basically. And I'm not sure if you were in earlier when I was talking about exemplification, but filing it in the county out here, it's the miscellaneous personal records, which is part of property records. And when you get the copy, it's not just a certified copy, it's an exemplified copy, or some jurisdictions will call it authentication, but it's the same thing. But basically, it's just the judge is signing off on your nationality affidavit, your copyright name, you know, affidavit, or whatever it is, basically stating that it's in due form of law and makes it a fact of law for court situations, things like that. But in some kinds, you can't use your straw man for DBA. What happened? Happened to me in New Jersey. Oh, really? That's interesting. I would ask, did you have a separation between the straw man and the national name, or did you just do the upper lowercase versus the straw man? Because that makes a difference in certain places. So if it looks exactly the same, as far as the spelling, you know, what they call that in law is item sonus, basically like a homonym. How we say that the straw man is a different entity than the natural name, even if it's the exact same. So in law, most places, if it's like that and what they call item sonus, they won't allow you to do that. So that's what happens a lot of times too when people are trying to file these UCCs, but they don't have a national name. You know, just brothers trying to do the upper lower version, the grammatically correct Christian version of the name, you know, whatever you want to call it. Y'all know what I'm talking about. But basically, that's how that goes. But you could try again also. And actually, one of the things I did too, when it comes to DBA, I did it like a lodio title. So when it comes to a lodio title, you have the initial title, you have the what do you call it? The land patent, and then you have an affidavit of acceptance and acknowledgement. So I did something kind of similar with my DBA. I filled out the application, but I did an affidavit of DBA that says the exact same thing as the certificate says that they put out too. And this is all in my status correction package. If you don't have it, it's 50 notes. Y'all should go check that out. But along with that, once I got my affidavit and then the certificate that they gave back along with the application that I filled out, because with that one on the application itself, it says that is the certificate of ownership. So keep that one too. Like I scanned in the copy and kept it. So I put all three together like a allodial title. So that, and I did the last one, the affidavit of acceptance and acknowledgement. That's the last step in a allodial title, ownership. So same thing I did for owning my straw man name. I did it, the 3-step way, so I really own it like that. I did the affidavit, I did the statutory forms that they have that they give out, and then I did an affidavit of acceptance and acknowledgement. So even if you can't do their version of it, you can still do a affidavit of DBA, and they can't stop you from that in any way. So there's always more than one way to skin a cat. When you finish, I believe it's gonna ask you, do you want to save it? Oh, appreciate that. Our people need you here on IG. All right, cool. I mean, I've been on IG. I just haven't done lives. This is my first live. With the name, should you use the CPN? CPN is an option. And you said new name, your national name. All right, CPN is an option. So in general, people trying to make separation and not use the social, it's a few different ways they go. One is with an EIN, whether it's a foreign EIN or a regular EIN. Some people use the CPN, which there's nothing wrong with that one. That's just as good of an option, but you can't use a CPN for federal loans and things of that sort. But that's the only thing you can't really use it for. Besides that, it's all good, and you just can't misrepresent it as a social per se. The other option that I've heard more is using, but not many, is the I-10. And I'm looking into doing that one next. The I-10. What document would one get exemplified to get an official divorce? Okay. The thing is, all right, if you did a divorce in the traditional way going through the courts, you're going to have to do that. You're going to have to do their process to do a divorce too. I'm pretty sure. Keno, is that you asking that? Look, I got the family law book for Texas. So, look, you just need to come holler at me. You know what I'm saying? We can sit down on that one. Like, that's nothing. That's why I changed the spelling of the first name. Islam, indeed. So you see exactly what I'm saying. So I was born in one state, tried changing my name in the state I reside, and they tried some bullshit and wouldn't accept it. How much is that package? If you mean the status correction package, that's 50 notes. All right, so you tried to do the name change and they wouldn't accept it. What it sounds like you're saying is you did the name change petition and they wouldn't accept it. So that's the public way of changing your name. The private way is through the affidavit, like I was saying. You file it and get the exemplified or authenticated copy from the county on that county level. You can take that along with the application for state ID or whatever that you're trying to change, and they will use that like it's a court-ordered name change. When you do the court order, what they're looking for when you go, like, let's say to DPS or whatever to change over, is a certificate of name change. Well, on the top of our affidavit, it says certificate of Morris name change. The other side to that is they're looking for the judge's signature, where when you get the exemplified copy, the elected clerk and the elected judge are the ones who sign off on it. So that's how you would do that. And that goes around them being able to accept your name change in the court or not, and telling you no, skipping the background check and all of that. Once you have it on affidavit, exemplified with the judge signature, that's pretty much all you need. And they accept it, I'll say 99% of the times. I've heard one instance where dealing with Social Security Administration, brother, he went and changed like 3 of the people in his family with his consort went up there. They didn't want to let her do it, but he just went up there and did it, like, later on. So, like that's the experiences I've heard out here in Texas. Like I that's the only time I've ever heard of anyone not accepting it, I'll say. How would you put a divorce on the county record? You got to go up there. 201 Caroline, 3rd floor. You get off the elevator and go left, I want to say, as opposed to going right, where you go file your affidavits for nationality and all that. As far as obtaining credit, What do you mean? Oh, the I-10 can be used? That's a good question. I'm not one to sit up and lie, so I'm not sure. I want to say you can because the I-10 is a number used for foreigners. So if they're going to obtain credit, they need some number to use. So if they're not using the I-10, then they're using a CPN or something like that. But there's no way to get credit without some type of 9-digit number that I've seen. Working with some Moors that are really into that's what they do is assist with getting funding and things like that when it comes to credit and all of that. And I'm about to work with them to really get that game up. But that's not what I do per se. Like, that's not my expertise. So, I can only give you a limited, amount on that one. But, definitely look into it, though. Like, you should be able to Google that. Can an I-10 be used for credit? Islam, people, we got more than came in. Look like a few may have dropped off. But I'm answering any questions anybody has. This is just my test run. Oh, I'm gonna need to order that. Oh, name change to national identification. The I-10 was your social. Well, if you're a foreigner, actually someone born outside of what they call United States, don't have a birth certificate, and come over here, you get an I-10 instead of a social. So to them, it is their social. To someone who has a straw man that was created here, the social security number is that number, and not the I-10, for everything, credit, whatever. It's the identifying number that they put on you. That was a good one, though. True School Wear. Shout out, Khalid. Queen Dutchy, Islam. Shout out to you, sis. Any other questions, fam? Divorce on record. Can I get annulment notarized, then exemplified? All right. I've never heard it stated like that, but I'll say it like this here. Anything that's notarized, anything can be exemplified. And anything that is notarized can be authenticated. So if you wanted to, you could, get that authenticated all the way up to the federal level if you wanted to. That's just, how it is. And that's one of them things where people really don't be understanding procedure and process. So people get scared of authentication because they hear about authentication of birth certificate, and you go by the definition of authentication. Yeah, you can't authenticate a birth certificate according to that definition, but that's not what the process is. The process of authentication, when I looked it up and got the full understanding, I was like, they need to change the name, because you're not making anything authentic per se. You're making a document usable in court as a fact, or in any jurisdiction outside the United States jurisdiction. So, okay, let's say, you went to Harvard out here and you wanted to go get your master's abroad at like Oxford or something like that there. You would need an authenticated copy of your diploma to go use in that other jurisdiction. Well, if they're not a party to the Hague Convention or Treaty too. I got to give that caveat, because people are trying to say I don't know what I'm talking about, but that's not it. It's intricacies to everything. So the I-10 would be better to use with the new name. Yes, definitely. You want to use I-10 CPN, your 9-8 number, or even, generic, EINs. You want to use those with a name different than your straw man, to create that separation. That's really what people are trying to do. So it's not so much what you should do. It's just about doing something, So think of those numbers as like your Monopoly piece. You got your thimble, you got the car, all of those. That's all they are. They're different pieces that you use, to get to a goal. So how do you attach your DBA to your EIN, or do you? Hmm, that's a good one. Um, all right. Not everybody gonna like this answer, but the best way that I've seen that people do it is on your UCC. You know, Another way though that I could think of doing it is with the counter deed that we have, which is basically the document that we use to claim your authenticated birth certificate. You could add both of those to that document as well, which we use that in Commerce in place of the UCC because it has all the same claims and all of that without having to actually do that particular type of filing. But if you are someone that does a UCC, we do it a little different out here too, and we do our UCCs not based on the the security agreement that they use. We do ours based on our authenticated birth certificate claim, the counter deed. So as long as somewhere on a document that you have in Commerce that you're claiming, you putting the numbers on there and the names together, that's how I would go about it. Cause my D, hold on. Oh, my DBA has its own social, and so does my 9-8. Oh. Okay. I see what you're saying. All right, so yeah, when you get an EIN in general, it's usually attached to a social unless you're doing a 9-8 and you're not given a social. So that's how those would, come into play. Once you separate the public straw man from the live flesh and blood human, doesn't that make your natural? Hold on, scroll. All right, doesn't that make your natural, you're felon free if your straw man is the one with the felony? All right. I see what you're trying to do there. It does and it doesn't. The distinction is made, the separation is made. What ties everything together? Your fingerprints. So, when or if, a situation comes up where you're fingerprinted, it's going to come up. So, the definition of a felon is someone who has malice intent. So you can have a felony but not be a felon because you no longer have malintent. You're a noble now. But in the eyes of the law, technically, you want to make that separation and see if you can either expunge or seal the record, because it's still going to be there. And as basically the secure party for that entity, you got to deal with it in some way. I definitely understand. I'm in that same boat, and they tried playing games with me when I looked at doing the expunging my record out here. So I went back to the drawing board. I ain't finished yet. I got the book now. So, because if you just tell them you want to do it, trying to do the process, they beat around the bush with you out here. Just to be totally honest, they gonna ask you, okay, which cases is it? We'll look it up and see, does it even qualify? And well, okay, you can do this one, but you can't do this one, and maybe with this, and you can't do felonies. But what they're saying or what they told me didn't align with the law. When I was on the phone with them, so I was like, let me go back to the drawing board. I'm going to get the books and get everything. So when I do come with it, I'm going to have everything. So even if they do say because of this and this and this and this, they can deny, I can say no. According to such and such Texas code or whatever, you got to do it because of this. That's the best way to handle those things, is throw their words back at them. Heard you. Can you get rid of your criminal record by discharging it? I don't think so. That's a good question. I never looked into it in that sense. The thing is, discharging the obligation doesn't necessarily get rid of the record, which is why I said you have to either seal it or expunge it, to my knowledge. You wouldn't necessarily discharge something that's already a case that's been dissolved. because the charge has been there and it's been redeemed already by them. So technically, in that type of situation, what you could do is go back and claim your interest in the case after the fact, because every case that you do, you have interest in. Um, Whether you win, lose, or draw, you get interest in the case. So I have a brother that knows a little bit better on how to do that, so don't ask me that question, y'all, please. But I'm gonna look into that and probably do a post or something about that pretty soon. Got a few more people in here. Mikael, Islam, brother, how you been? I ain't seen you, heard from you in a minute. Um, so do you have to write the verbiage on the bill and sign? On what bill? Can you be more specific? Give me more details on that. Write the verbiage on the bill and sign. What it sounds like you're trying to say is dealing with like bills that come in the mail, like basically trying to convert the what do you call it, the remittance coupon into a bill of exchange or a money order. That doesn't work for the most part. Okay, yeah, utilities, etc. Yeah, I got you. All right, so all right, I got a video on my YouTube. Y'all can go check out Discharging Debt versus Paying Bills, where I talk about the different statuses and things that you need to do when it comes to discharging debt. The first is your personal status, getting that right, and your relationship with the Treasury, the Secretary of Treasury, your state comptroller, and all that. Way we do that is counter deed to your authenticated birth certificate and all of that. The second status you got to deal with when it's dealing with bills, debts, and things of that sort is the status of the debt. So in debt, there are two definitions: debt owed and debt due. Debt owed is a contract. You can't necessarily discharge a contract until it's debt due, which debt due is a past due mature debt, usually 60 to 90 days. So with your example in utilities, generally if your utilities are between 60 and 90 days past due, they cut your service off. So at that point you could discharge it, but you don't have the service. So it's not that you couldn't write them an instrument. It's just that they in general the debt is not there yet. It's not a public debt to be discharged. But also in general, in what I was talking about, in that video, the third status in particular is the status of the person receiving that private instrument. So anyone that is public, like IPO public, and the government can accept private instruments because they're on the accrual booking method or the double booking method, the T account method. They call it a few things, but if you've researched it, you know what I'm talking about. Basically, they can exchange on their books the promissory notes the same day and clear it. So they take in your promissory note, let's say $100,000 for a property, and they take that liability in their books and switch it over to an asset. They're paid, they're free and clear that exact same day. That's the third thing when it comes to discharging debt. But the caveat on that one is, because I know y'all have probably heard of mortgage fraud. When it comes to the fraud portion of it, it's not fraud to be able to accept the private instruments, but when the mortgage is written up, basically they give you a contract that you're agreeing to repay back. So this 15 to 30 year contract that you're repaying monthly, owing up to, I guess, the 100,000. Once that 100,000 is paid off, they're supposed to give you that promissory note for 100,000 back, because that commercial instrument that you gave them was worth 100,000 and they got it that day. So the fact that they sell the promissory notes off after 90 days when it becomes a mature debt, like I was telling y'all about, that's what makes mortgage stuff fraud. So let's bring it back to bills, with your question. Generally, utilities and government type of things, they can accept private instruments, so you may be able to discharge with them, but you would have to come with a different type of presentment. I wouldn't be trying to write out off of a bill the verbiage like you were saying and then send that back in and expect it to work. From what I've seen and everybody that I know that's tried that, it doesn't work. That was in the throwing shit up against the wall and see if it stick phase. But since then, I haven't seen anyone to do that. Or I haven't seen a situation where it worked. The only way I could see it working is maybe with a government type of situation, because the government has to accept anything you give them. And even still, it had to be a past due date over 90 days and your status be on the record with them for them to negotiate it. But for the most part, they negotiate commercial instruments, like what looks like a commercial instrument. So that's what you do. I have lessons on that on my Ko-fi page because that's private. Like I can't, really give all of that stuff out. But they take me down, probably come for me. But once you completed those some shit with straw man, can't you force them to unhand our straw man fingerprints or any physical? Since the straw man didn't get full disclosure. Not really. I understand where you're coming from with that. What people do is they put it on their UCC and they lean their fingerprints and intellectual property, things of that sort. I'm not sure that you could force them to hand it over. It depends. Like that's something that would be a special case where you would have to really, really look into it if you want to get that back from them. And you would probably have to sue or do an injunction through the courts or something like that. Like they're not just going to give that up, and technically they probably going to say they have the right to have it due to public safety hazard reasons, because the thing is, the only reason they have the right to mess with you, to stop you and things of that sort, is an extreme public safety hazard. So the thing is, they might put you in that category if they have your fingerprints already because you've been arrested. Because if you've never been arrested, your fingerprints are not on file unless you've done a court order name change. And in that case, you might be able to get it back. But just in general, like if they did it from an arrest, I don't see it being easy if you can get it back. Is it considered treason to authenticate your birth certificate? No, sis, it's not. You missed earlier in the live. All right. When it comes to authentication with any document that can be notarized like an affidavit can be authenticated. So what people say with the birth certificate is if you authenticated it, it'd be, going along with the fraud and treason and things of that sort. That's incorrect. If you wanted to make these claims that they did treason on you by creating the birth certificate, you would need an authenticated copy to use as evidence in court. Now, on the front of the certificate that you get from the federal level, they have on there all the laws pertaining to authentication. And one of them is Rule 44 of Federal Procedure. And that one basically states that anything that's authenticated is basically a fact of law and is good as evidence in court. So if you want to use a copy of your birth certificate to say that they committed fraud on you or anything like that there, you would need that authenticated copy. So how would it be treason for you to get this correct copy, basically, just like all right, let me run back. Let me go back because I stated this earlier. When I understood authentication for the first time, I said they should change the name of the process, because if you're just going by what the name authentication and the Black's Law Dictionary or any legal definition is going to throw you off, you're not going to understand what's going on. I said they should change the name because of, that alone, because it's confusing. It confused me at first. Initially, I was against authentication. I was one of them people that preached against it too, until I really, really looked into it, because if you're going to say you're a true scholar, you got to be unbiased and look at the stuff that you think is incorrect and judge that too in the same manner as you would stuff that you think is correct, and go down and just, review it. And when I looked into authentication, the process versus just the name and definition, two totally separate things. So the process that I was telling people to do is get your nationality affidavit exemplified or authenticated. They'll call it either or depending on what county you're in. But it's basically when the judge, the elected judge, and the elected clerk sign off on your affidavit stating that it's in the due form of law. So you can use that in the public and the private. So if you want to go to DPS, Social Security, passport, places like that, and update your public information without doing a court order name change, jump through all the hoops, the fingerprintings and background checks and all of that, you can go that route. And that's authentication, and that has nothing to do with a birth certificate. So authentication in general doesn't necessarily have to do with a birth certificate. The thing is, the birth certificate is signed by the what do you call it? The registrar, the county registrar. So the registrar is a notary. So their register seal on there is the notary. So it's already notarized, basically. But I've heard in some jurisdictions, like in the state of New York, like with your birth certificate, if you want to get it authenticated on the state and federal level, you have to get it authenticated on that county level, or exemplified. But I think they actually do call it authentication in New York in particular. Islam got more people in here. Brian Bay, Islam, brother, I need you to call me when you get a chance. Or stop by the crib, or I'm gonna pull up on you, like whatever. I gotta holler at you, brother. Got you. Send me the page. Link to the page. DM me and I'll send it to you, brother, because I don't want to forget. What if I was a juvenile when I got removed Prince and now have reached age of majority? If you understand the law lingo. I got you, brother. Like I say, I think they'll make it difficult to get them prints, whether it's juvenile or not. And you may need to sue or do an injunction against the courts to get that. Yes, they do. I miss what that's pertaining to. My bad. If you can put it in there. Any other questions, fam? Had a lot of good ones in here. All right, fam. Well, look, I think I'm going to get up out of here if I can figure it out. Like I said, this is my test run. I don't even know what I'm doing. So if it take me a minute. Okay, thank you, more. Yeah, indeed. No doubt, Noble. Just hit me up. I got you. Anybody in here, y'all can DM me any of the questions. If you need some documents, trying to get package, or anything like that there, consultation, let me know, and I'll get with you. Peace and love.